Close your eyes now, darling. Let the soft rain begin to fall outside your window, each tiny drop brushing the glass like a fingertip tracing gentle circles on your skin. Shh, just listen to the hush of it. Feel how the air grows cooler, heavier, sweeter, with the scent of wet earth drifting in. Tonight we're going somewhere quiet and vast, somewhere time itself forgets to hurry. Tonight I'm going to whisper the entire story of arrival to you, every secret, every tear, every heartbeat. Nothing held back, because some stories, imagine you're curled beneath the warmest blanket, the kind that smells faintly of cedar and lavender, while a single candle flickers on the nightstand, painting slow golden waves across the walls. The flame trembles the way your thoughts do just before sleep, and in that trembling light I lean close, so close you can feel the warmth of my breath near your ear, my voice low, velvet, almost weightless, ready to guide you. This is the story of Louise Banks, a woman who learned to speak in circles, who learned to see tomorrow the way most of us see yesterday, and who chose love even when she already knew the ending. It's a story about language, about loss, about the terrifying beauty of knowing, and about how sometimes the greatest gift the universe can give us is the courage to say yes anyway. You already know the ships arrive. 12 black shells hanging motionless in the air above 12 places on Earth, like teardrops made of night. No engines, no sound, just perfect stillness. But tonight we're going back to the very first moment Louise feels the tremor of them in her bones. Before the news, before the helicopters, when she's standing alone in her quiet house by the lake, watching dust motes drift through a shaft of afternoon light, holding a cup of tea that has gone cold in her hands. Have you ever stood in a room that suddenly felt too large, too empty, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath? That's where we find her. A linguist who has lost the one language she never wants to speak again, the language of family, of laughter in the kitchen, of tiny shoes by the door. And now, right now, let the rain grow a little stronger. Let it tap softly on the roof like 1,000 gentle fingers. Let it wash away the day, because in a moment the military will come knocking. In a moment everything will tilt forever. But for these few heartbeats there is only stillness, only the soft ticking of a clock, only the warmth of my voice wrapping around you like arms. Trivia whispered just for you. Denis Villeneuve read Ted Chiang's short story, Story of Your Life, and cried so hard he couldn't speak for 10 minutes. He said the story felt like someone had reached inside his chest and rearranged the pieces. That's the kind of film we're stepping into tonight, one that rearranges you while you sleep. Have you ever met someone and felt, without knowing why, that your life was about to change forever? Close your eyes tighter. Breathe in the cool, rainy air, because Louise is about to open her front door, and the rest of her life, the rest of ours, is waiting on the other side. Just rest now. Let the mattress cradle every part of you. Let the blanket feel heavier, warmer. We have all the time in the world, or perhaps none at all. Either way, you're safe here with me, and the story is only just beginning to breathe. The rain keeps falling, steady and patient, the way memories sometimes arrive when you're not looking for them. Louise stands in her kitchen, the cold teacup still cradled in her palms, and the first thing she notices is the silence inside the house, the kind of silence that has weight, like water pressing against the windows. Outside, the lake is perfectly still, a sheet of gray glass reflecting a sky that hasn't decided whether to cry or simply hold its breath. She is wearing an old cream sweater, soft as a cloud, sleeves pushed up to the elbows, and her hair is loose, the ends brushing her collarbone every time she turns her head. She hasn't slept well in months, maybe years. The rooms smell faintly of cedar from the fireplace she never lights anymore, and of the books stacked everywhere, tall, quiet towers of paper that keep her company when people no longer do. She is thinking about her daughter. Always. The way Hannah used to run barefoot across the hardwood floor, laughing at nothing, the sound bright as bells. She is thinking about the last time she held that small body. Fever hot and impossibly light, and whispered promises she already knew she couldn't keep. These memories arrive in flashes, sudden, sharp, like someone turning a light on and off inside her skull. And then the doorbell rings, once. Firm, military. Colonel Weber stands on the porch flanked by two younger officers, rain dripping from the brims of their caps. Their boots are wet, leaving dark prints on the welcome mat that still says "Home Sweet Home" in faded red letters. Weber's face is carved from granite, but his eyes flicker with something close to fear. He doesn't waste words. 12 extraterrestrial vessels have appeared. No communication yet. They need the best linguist in the country. They need her. Now. Louise feels the floor tilt beneath her feet, the way it does in dreams when the ground forgets its job. She wants to say no. She wants to close the door and crawl back into the quiet ache she has grown used to. But something inside her, something older than grief, stirs. Curiosity, perhaps, or destiny wearing curiosity's face. She nods. Just once. Have you ever said yes to something that terrified you simply because saying no felt like dying a little? Breathe into that question. Let it settle in your chest. Notice how your shoulders soften when you stop fighting the memory. They fly her by helicopter through the night. The rain streaking sideways across the windows like silver threads. Inside the cabin it smells of wet uniforms and hot coffee from a metal thermos. The rotors thump in a slow heartbeat that vibrates through the seat and into her spine. She closes her eyes and sees circles. Not yet the heptapod circles. Just ordinary circles. The rim of Hannah's teacup, the wedding ring she still wears, though Ian left years ago, the way water circles the drain after a bath. Everything is already looping, she simply doesn't know it yet. They land at the Montana site just before dawn. The shell rises out of the mist, like a mountain that learned how to float. It is blacker than any absence of light she has ever seen, a matte void that swallows radar, swallows sound, swallows hope and fear in equal measure. It hangs 30 feet above a rolling field of wheat that bends in slow waves, though there is almost no wind. Soldiers move like shadows. Tents glow from within, soft amber islands in the pre-dawn gray. The air smells of damp soil and diesel, and something metallic she cannot name. Inside the main tent, she meets Ian Donnelly for the first time. He is leaning over a table, covered in star charts and physics equations, sleeves rolled high, forearms dusted with dark hair. When he looks up and smiles, it is crooked, tired, real. "So you're the one who's going to talk to the aliens," he says, voice warm with something close to wonder. "I'm the one who's going to figure out what the hell they're doing to gravity." There is an immediate ease between them, the kind that usually takes months, as if their souls recognize each other across the exhaustion. Trivia slipped gently into your ear. The shell you're picturing was designed by Patrice Vermette to have no straight lines anywhere. Every surface curves, because Villeneuve wanted the audience to feel subtly unsettled, the way you feel when a dream refuses to let you wake up. They suit up together in the decontamination tent. The fabric is thick, rustles softly as they pull it over their clothes. The helmets are heavy, the visors fogged at first with their own breath. When the inner door hisses open and they step into the gravity corridor, everything changes. The floor tilts 90 degrees, yet their bodies stay upright, hair lifting slightly as though underwater. The walls are smooth obsidian, warm to the touch. The air tastes clean, almost sweet, like the moment after rain when the world remembers how to breathe. At the far end, a perfect rectangle of white light appears, no visible source, soft as moonlight on snow. Abbott and Costello are waiting beyond it. That is what the soldiers will name them later, after the old comedy routine, because no one can pronounce the low-frequency pulses they make. But right now they are simply there. Two enormous heptapods suspended in mist, bodies like upturned tree trunks wrapped in wet bark, 7 limbs moving in slow, deliberate waves. Their skin shifts color subtly, grays and violets and deep ocean greens. When they exhale, it sounds like distant thunder rolling across water. Louise's heart is hammering so loudly she is sure they can hear it. Ian's hand brushes hers inside the bulky glove. Just once, steadying. She lifts her whiteboard. Writes a single word in black marker, letters large and careful. Human. Then beneath it she draws a simple stick figure, 2 arms, 2 legs, a circle for a head. She turns the board toward them. The silence stretches. The mist swirls. 1 limb unfurls, impossibly graceful, and a cloud of black ink blooms from a nozzle at its tip, forming a perfect circle filled with intricate, non-linear glyphs that seem to breathe. The logogram hovers in the air for 7 full seconds before it dissipates. Ian whispers, so quietly only she can hear, "Holy shit." Louise feels laughter and terror rise in her throat at the same time. Something has begun. Something irreversible. Have you ever stood at the edge of a moment and felt the future lean in to kiss you? Let that feeling settle behind your eyes now. Let it soften the place where tomorrow usually lives. They work for hours that feel like minutes. Every movement deliberate. Every breath measured. The whiteboard fills with questions. WHO? Why here? What want? The heptapods answer in expanding circles of ink that smell faintly of ozone and cuttlefish. Louise's hand begins to tremble from holding the marker. Ian notices, takes it from her gently, writes the next question himself. Their fingers brush again. Electricity, quiet and warm. When they finally step back into the Montana morning, the sun is rising, pale gold spilling across the wheat like warm honey. Louise pulls off her helmet and the cold air hits her face like a slap. She realizes she is crying, but she isn't sure why. Ian stands beside her, hair damp with mist, eyes wide and shining. Neither of them speaks. There is nothing language can hold yet. The camp is waking up. Coffee percolates. Radios crackle. Somewhere a soldier laughs too loudly at a joke that isn't funny. Louise looks back at the shell, still hanging motionless, patient as a held breath. She thinks, I have just taken the first step into a story that will break my heart and make it larger than I ever thought possible. And you, sweet dreamer, you have taken the first step with her. Feel how heavy your eyelids have grown, how the rain has become a lullaby against the roof, how every muscle is learning the shape of surrender. The days begin to blur together like watercolor left in the rain, each one bleeding softly into the next, while the great black shell keeps its perfect silence above the Montana hills. Louise wakes before dawn every morning now, the army cot hard beneath her shoulder blades, the canvas walls of the tent glowing faint orange from the lantern outside. The air smells of damp wool and instant coffee, and the particular metallic tang that clings to everything near the shell. She lies very still for a moment, listening to the quiet breathing of the camp, feeling the slow thud of her own heart, and then the memories come, uninvited, unstoppable. Hannah, at 4 years old, standing on a chair in the kitchen, flour on her cheeks like pale constellations, trying to stir cake batter with a wooden spoon almost as tall as she is. Hannah, at 7, climbing the big maple tree in the backyard, fearless, calling down, "Mommy, look how high the sky is from here." Hannah, at 12, thin and pale in the hospital bed, whispering with a smile that still managed to light the room, "It's okay, Mom. I'm not afraid." The memories arrive in full color, full sound, full scent, warm vanilla and antiseptic, and the faint strawberry of hospital soap, and Louise has learned not to fight them anymore. She simply lets them wash over her the way the mist inside the shell washes over her skin. Have you ever noticed how grief can feel like a second skin, something you wear so long you forget it isn't actually you? Breathe into that place now. Let it soften, just a little. She and Ian fall into a rhythm that feels older than language. They ride the gravity corridor together twice a day, sometimes 3 times when the heptapods seem particularly talkative. The corridor itself has become familiar. The sudden lurch when the floor forgets which way is down, the faint ozone smell, the way the walls pulse with a warmth that is almost alive. Inside the chamber, the mist is thicker now, cool and moist, tasting faintly of salt and something greener, like crushed pine needles. Abbott and Costello, enormous and gentle, drift in slow circles, their 7 limbs moving in waves that remind Louise of kelp forests she once saw in California, swaying in invisible currents. They have graduated from whiteboards to a huge transparent wall, where Louise writes with her entire arm, letters 2 feet tall. The marker squeaks softly, a sound that has become oddly comforting. Ian stands behind her, close enough that she can feel the heat of him through both their suits, his hand sometimes resting lightly on her shoulder as he leans in to read the newest heptapod sentence blooming in front of them. The logograms are more complex every day, perfect circles segmented into hundreds of delicate curls and wedges that radiate outward from the center like the petals of some impossible flower. They do not read left to right or top to bottom. They read all at once. The meaning arrives whole, the way music does. Louise's dreams begin to change. She dreams in circles now. She dreams of Hannah laughing on a swing that never stops rising. She dreams of Ian's mouth shaping words she cannot yet hear. She dreams of ink spreading across endless white, forming sentences that contain entire lifetimes in a single breath. She wakes gasping, heart racing, and for one disorienting second she cannot tell which timeline she belongs to. Trivia, whispered so only you can hear. The actual heptapod language was designed by a team of real linguists and artists. Every single glyph contains a complete sentence, and no two artists were allowed to draw the same curve twice, so that the script would feel truly alien yet internally consistent. Imagine the patience that required the love. One afternoon, the heptapods release a logogram so large it fills the entire wall. Thousands of tiny flourishes swirling like galaxies. Louise stares at it for a full minute before the meaning lands inside her skull with the weight of a stone dropped into still water. Offer weapon. The chamber goes very quiet. Outside, through the comms, she hears Colonel Weber's voice tighten. "Banks, repeat that. Did they just threaten us?" Ian's hand finds hers inside the glove, squeezes hard. She feels the tremor in his fingers. That night, the camp is chaos. China is mobilizing. Russia is threatening to nuke its own shell. The CIA wants to feed the heptapods false data. Louise sits alone in the linguistics tent, under a single bare bulb, the logogram printed on paper in front of her, and she begins to see it differently. The same curves, the same segments, but the intention shifts like one of those optical illusions where a vase becomes two faces. It isn't offer weapon, it is offer tool, a tool for seeing time. The difference is everything. She tries to explain this to Weber, and the room erupts. They call her naive, they call her compromised. Ian stands beside her, voice calm, deadly calm. She's the only one here who's actually communicating. Maybe try listening for once. The silence that follows is brittle. Have you ever been certain of something everyone else was terrified of, and felt utterly alone inside that certainty? Let that loneliness settle in your chest now, and then let my voice cradle it, because you are not alone tonight. They go back in the next morning without permission, just the two of them. The mist is thicker than ever, almost liquid, clinging to their visors. Abbott and Costello are waiting. One of them, Abbott, moves closer than ever before, a limb unfurling until the tip hovers inches from Louise's helmet. She feels no fear, only a vast, aching tenderness. Slowly, deliberately, she removes her helmet. The air is cool, sweet, alive. Ian shouts her name, but she lifts a hand. Quiet. She breathes the alien air and does not die. The chamber fills with ink. Thousands of logograms bloom at once, overlapping, spinning, forming a storm of meaning that pours itself directly into her mind. Time folds. She sees Ian kissing her for the first time in the tent at 2:14 a.m. 18 months from now. She sees Hannah being born, pink and squalling, in a hospital room that smells of lilies. She sees Hannah's funeral, the tiny white coffin, the rain falling exactly like this rain falling now outside your window. She sees herself standing on a stage years later, publishing the book that will teach humanity to think non-linearly, saving billions. She sees everything, all at once. When she stumbles out hours later, helmet dangling from her hand, hair damp with mist, Ian catches her as her knees buckle. She is crying and laughing and cannot explain yet. The circles have opened. The weapon, the tool, is perception itself. And you, precious one, feel how deep you've drifted already, how the rain has become part of your bloodstream, how every breath is slower, heavier, sweeter. The world is coming apart at the seams now, but very quietly the way ice cracks beneath snow long before anyone hears the sound. In the command tent, the screens glow red with warnings. China has declared 0 hour in 18 hours. General Shang has ordered the shell over his country packed with explosives. Russia is minutes behind. Satellite feeds show tanks rolling toward the European sites. At the Montana camp, soldiers load rifles they will never get to use against creatures who have no concept of war. The air smells of gun oil and panic sweat and burnt coffee left too long on the burner. Louise sits on the edge of her cot, boots unlaced, hair falling across her face in damp strands. Her hands are trembling, not from fear but from the sheer weight of knowing. She can taste every moment that is coming. The metallic bite of the detonator in Shang's control room, the way Ian's voice will crack when he finally says "I love you," the exact shade of Hannah's eyes the first time she says "Mama," clear enough to break the world open. All of it is already written inside her in perfect circles of ink. Ian finds her there. The tent flap rustles softly as he steps inside, letting in a sliver of cold night air that smells of wheat and distant wood smoke. He kneels in front of her without speaking, takes both her shaking hands in his. His palms are warm, calloused from years of handling telescopes and chalkboards. She looks at him and sees the future version of this exact moment. The same tent, the same lantern light flickering across his cheekbones. Only then his eyes will be older, sadder, and he will be walking away from her forever, because she will have chosen Hannah knowing what it costs him. She starts to cry, silent tears that slide down her cheeks and drip onto their joined hands. He brushes them away with his thumbs, gentle, reverent. "Tell me what you need," he whispers. "Anything." She wants to tell him everything. That they will marry quietly beside the lake. That they will make a baby with his smile and her stubborn chin. That the baby will die before she is old enough for high school. That he will leave because the grief is too sharp to live beside. That she will still say yes to all of it because the joy is worth the pain. Instead, she only leans forward until their foreheads touch, breathing the same small pocket of air. Trivia, soft as a secret. Amy Adams practiced writing the heptapod circles for months with her non-dominant hand, so the tremor you see on screen when Louise realizes the truth is completely real, her actual nerves reacting to the impossible knowledge flooding her character. Imagine holding an entire future in your wrist and feeling it shake. Have you ever loved someone so fiercely you would agree to lose them just to have held them once? Let that question drift across the surface of your heart like a leaf on still water. Notice it doesn't sink, it simply rests there, luminous. In the dead of night they steal the satellite uplink truck. The keys are hanging on a hook beside the motor pool, forgotten in the chaos. Ian drives while Louise sits in the passenger seat clutching the handwritten manuscript that will one day become her book. Pages filled with circles upon circles, arrows that loop back on themselves like Mobius strips. The road is dark, only the dashboard lights painting their faces green. Rain lashes the windshield in frantic pulses. Ian reaches over and laces his fingers through hers without taking his eyes off the road. Neither of them speaks. There is nothing left to say in linear sentences. They broadcast from an empty field 20 miles away, using a frequency the military hasn't thought to jam yet. Louise speaks directly to General Shang in Mandarin. She didn't know she knew. Until this moment, the words arriving fully formed the way the heptapod sentences do. She tells him about his dead wife. She tells him the private phrase he whispered to her on their wedding night. The one no intelligence agency on Earth could ever have intercepted. There is no storm we cannot weather together. She tells him the heptapods are not offering a weapon but a way of seeing that will make weapons obsolete. She tells him, voice trembling yet steady, that 18 months from now he will call her personally to thank her for saving his granddaughter's life. On the other end of the line, there is only silence and the soft static of rain on satellite dishes halfway around the world. Then, the line goes dead. For 7 endless minutes the planet holds its breath. And then the miracle. China stands down. One by one the others follow. The shells do not leave, they simply open wider, releasing vast clouds of ink that drift across the sky like slow-motion auroras, seeding the atmosphere with the gift of non-linear perception. Scientists will spend decades arguing about how it works. Children born after this night will dream in circles. Back at camp, the sunrise is the color of peach flesh and forgiveness. Soldiers are crying openly. Someone starts singing and no one tells them to stop. Louise stands on the hill beneath a shell with Ian's arms wrapped around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. The wheat sways in perfect synchrony, though there is still no wind. Abbott and Costello, high above inside their chamber, release one final logogram so large it is visible from space. A single, perfect circle containing every human language, and none of them. A sentence that translates roughly to, "See you again in all times." Louise closes her eyes and feels the future fold itself gently around the present like arms. She knows exactly what comes next. The quiet wedding, the positive pregnancy test, the first kick, the diagnosis, the hospital room that smells of lilies and bleach, the funeral, the empty house, the book tours, the nights she will sit alone by the lake watching the stars and feeling Hannah alive inside every circle the water makes when a pebble drops. She knows she will never stop missing either of them. And she knows she will never regret saying yes. Have you ever realized that the most courageous thing you will ever do is choose to live a story whose ending already hurts? Let that courage settle into your bones now. Warm, heavy, safe. The shell begins its silent ascent hours later, rising straight up until it is only a black coin against the sun, then gone. The mist lingers for days, sweet and cool, and people all over the world report dreaming the same dream, of being held by something vast and gentle that has no name. And you, my sweet dreamer, feel how the rain has slowed to the softest drizzle, how your whole body has learned the shape of letting go, how every circle in this story is holding you now. The camp empties slowly over the next weeks, like a lung exhaling after holding its breath for years. Tents come down in soft collapses of canvas. Helicopters lift away in lazy spirals, their rotor wash flattening the wheat into perfect golden circles that will still be visible from the air months later. Louise stays longer than almost anyone, walking the field at dawn when the grass is heavy with dew and the sky is the color of the inside of a seashell. The shell is gone, yet she can still feel its absence the way amputees feel phantom limbs. A pressure that isn't there, a weight that has become part of her skeleton. She and Ian drive back to the lake house together in his battered old Jeep, windows down, late summer air thick with the smell of pine and sun-warmed earth. Neither of them has said the words yet, but they live in the space between their bodies anyway. The way his hand rests on her knee at every stop sign, the way she leans across the seat to trace the small scar above his eyebrow while he drives. When they pull into the gravel driveway, the house looks exactly the same, and completely different. Sunlight pours through the kitchen window and lands on the exact spot where Hannah will one day stand covered in flour. Louise feels the moment arrive inside her chest like a small son being born. They marry quietly on the dock at twilight, barefoot, wearing ordinary clothes. Only the celebrant and 2 soldiers who refuse to leave Montana as witnesses. Ian's vows are simple. I don't know what tomorrow looks like, but I know I want to see it with you. Louise's voice trembles when she answers. I already know what tomorrow looks like, and I still choose you. They kiss while fireflies blink on and off around them like slow applause. And somewhere in another timeline, Hannah is conceived beneath those same blinking lights. The pregnancy is easy at first. Louise wakes each morning to the smell of coffee Ian brews too strong and the sound of him humming off-key in the shower. Her body rounds gently, beautifully. She places Ian's hand on the small swell and watches his face rearrange itself into wonder every single time the baby kicks. They paint the nursery the pale yellow of early morning light. They argue playfully over names. He wants something astronomical, she wants something that feels like water. And finally settle on Hannah because it means grace, and they both feel the word has been waiting for them. Trivia. Breathed against the shell of your ear. The name Hannah is a palindrome. It reads the same forward and backward, just like the heptapod language, just like the way Louise now experiences her own life. Have you ever been so happy it felt like a kind of terror? Like you were holding something too perfect and the universe might notice and take it away? Rest there for a moment. Feel my voice holding that happiness so the universe can't find it tonight. The diagnosis comes on a Tuesday that smells of coming autumn. The pediatric cardiologist's office has posters of smiling cartoon animals that feel obscene. The doctor uses words like hypoplastic left heart syndrome and palliative pathways, and life expectancy measured in gentle seasons rather than decades. Ian goes very still beside her, hand gripping her so tightly she will find bruises later shaped like his fingerprints. Louise only nods. She has known for years. She has held Hannah's small fevered body in a hospital bed that hasn't happened yet. She has whispered, "It's okay, I'm here 1,000 times in dreams." They bring Hannah home anyway. She is born on a morning so bright it hurts, with Ian's dark hair and Louise's gray-green eyes, and a heart that is only half formed but beats fiercely anyway. The house fills with the smells of milk and baby shampoo and the particular sweetness of new skin. They learn the language of beeping monitors and midnight doses of medicine measured in drops. They learn to sleep in shifts, one of them always holding her, always. Visitors come and go quietly, bringing casseroles and soft blankets and eyes that fill with tears they try to hide. Hannah grows into a child made of light. She learns to walk along the edge of the lake holding both their hands, laughing at dragonflies. She invents words for colors that don't exist yet. She climbs trees with the fearless certainty of someone who has never been told the world is dangerous. Louise watches her and feels time folding in on itself again and again. Every smile is also a goodbye. Every bedtime story also the last one. She reads to her daughter from books filled with circles she herself drew years before Hannah was born, books that will one day teach the world to think differently. Ian tries. God, he tries. But grief has its own gravity, and some nights he sits on the back porch long after Hannah is asleep, staring at the stars as if they owe him an explanation. Louise finds him there one dawn, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. She wraps a blanket around both of them and holds him until the sun comes up. They do not speak of leaving yet, but the knowledge lives between them like a third person in the bed. Have you ever loved someone through the exact moment they decided they couldn't stay? Can you feel the ache of that mercy? Let it move through you now, slow as warm honey. Nothing to fix, nothing to do but let it be. The end, when it comes, is gentle. Hannah is 15, thin and luminous, curled on the couch with her head in Louise's lap, while Ian reads aloud from a physics textbook, because it makes her laugh to hear him try to explain quantum entanglement in a pirate voice. Outside, snow falls in perfect silence, each flake a tiny circle dissolving the moment it touches the window. Hannah's breathing slows. She looks up at her mother with eyes that have already seen everything, and whispers, "It's okay, Mom. I gotta have the best story." Then she is gone, light as a sigh. The funeral is small. The lake is frozen, reflecting a sky the color of Hannah's favorite sweater. Ian stands beside Louise, but not touching, a distance of inches that feels like galaxies. That night, he packs a single bag. They stand in the kitchen where Hannah once painted the cabinets with yogurt because she wanted to see if blue food coloring really stained forever. He cries. She cries. They hold each other so tightly it feels like trying to keep the world from spinning apart. Then he walks out into the snow and does not look back. Years collapse into the quiet rhythm of seasons. Louise writes the book that saves the world in ways no one will fully understand for generations. She teaches, she travels, she stands on stages and speaks to thousands about language and time and the unbearable beauty of choosing love anyway. At night she returns to the house by the lake, lights a fire she rarely used when Hannah was alive, and sits on the dock watching the water make endless circles when the wind touches it. She is never alone, not really. Sometimes in dreams the heptapods return, drifting above the lake like dark moons, and Hannah stands beside her, grown tall, whole, smiling the way she did at 7 when she discovered she could make shadows dance. Sometimes Ian appears too, older, softer around the eyes, and they simply sit together in silence that contains every possible apology and forgiveness. And always, always, the circles keep turning. Have you ever realized that every goodbye is also a hello happening somewhere else in time? Let that knowing settle behind your eyes now, soft, warm, eternal. The rain has softened now to the gentlest mist, the kind that kisses your cheeks without ever quite becoming drops. Listen to it, almost silent, almost like breathing. And somewhere far away the lake is breathing too, slow circles spreading outward from a single pebble Hannah once threw, circles that never truly end, only grow too wide for human eyes to follow. You are so deep now, darling, so safe, wrapped in the warm dark, where stories finish their work and dreams begin theirs. Louise still lives in the house by the water. The floors still creak in the exact places Hannah's small feet once danced. The kitchen cabinets still carry faint blue ghosts of yogurt handprints, no amount of scrubbing ever removed. Every morning she wakes before the sun and pads barefoot to the window, watching the mist rise off the lake like a slow exhalation. She is older now, hair threaded with silver that catches the light like frost, but her eyes are the same gray-green that looked into a heptapod's gaze and did not blink. She wears Ian's old university sweatshirt, sleeves pushed high, the cuffs frayed from years of being worried between her fingers on nights when the missing felt too heavy to carry alone. Some evenings she walks the dock with a mug of chamomile that smells of earth and honey, steam curling up into the cold air, and she speaks aloud to the quiet. Not to ghosts, exactly, more like echoes that learned how to answer back. She tells Hannah about the students who quote her book now, without knowing the child who inspired every page. She tells Ian about the physicist in Geneva, who finally proved the Donnelly-Banks conjecture, and cried on television when he thanked them both. She tells the stars about the way love never really leaves. It only changes tense. Trivia, the very last one, whispered so close it tickles the tiny hairs behind your ear. When the film premiered, real linguists in the audience gasped at the moment Louise removes her helmet, because in academic reality, that would contaminate everything. But Villeneuve kept the scene anyway, saying sometimes the story needs you to break the rules so the heart can breathe. Have you ever noticed that the hardest goodbyes are the ones you have already lived 1,000 times before they happen? And the softest hellos are the ones that arrive after you've stopped waiting? Let those two truths curl around each other inside your chest like two vines that have learned to grow in perfect circles. Years after the shells vanished, children all over the world began drawing the same symbol in school, a simple circle filled with delicate swirls. Teachers asked where they learned it. The children only shrugged and said it felt like remembering. Louise keeps a folder of those drawings sent to her from strangers. She pins them above her desk like constellations. Sometimes she traces one with her fingertip and feels Hannah's small hand guiding hers, steady and sure. Ian comes back once. Just once. On the 17th anniversary of the day the shells opened. He is thinner, hair almost white, carrying the same crooked smile that once lived in her dreams. They sit on the dock in silence for a long time, legs dangling above the water, watching dragonflies stitch silver threads across the surface. When the sun sets, he finally speaks, voice rough from disuse. "I read your book," he says. "Every year, on her birthday." Louise nods. She has known he would come on this exact evening since the first time she saw his future face in the mist. They do not need to forgive each other. The circles already did that for them. When he leaves again, it is gentle, like closing a book you know you will open tomorrow. And now, sweet one, feel how every muscle has forgotten its name, how your breath is only the lake breathing, how the entire story has carried you across an ocean of heartbeats and laid you softly on the shore of sleep. The final gift the heptapods left was never the language itself. It was the quiet certainty that every moment we love in all directions at once. Past, present, future. They are only places the heart visits wearing different clothes. Louise lives inside that certainty now. She will die inside it too, many years from now. On a spring morning when the lilacs are blooming and the lake is so still, it holds the sky like a mirror. She will close her eyes on the dock, Hannah's old stuffed giraffe tucked beneath her arm the way her daughter once tucked it beneath hers, and she will smile because she can already see Ian waiting on the other side of a circle that has no edge. But that is another hello, not a goodbye. For you, tonight, there is only this. The soft weight of the blanket, the cool pillow against your cheek, the rain fading into the sound of waves that were never separate from your blood. You have walked every step of Louise's long, impossible, luminous circle. You have carried her joy and her grief and her astonishing courage. And now, you may lay them down. Have you ever noticed that the best stories don't end? They only hand the circle to you and trust you to keep it turning in your dreams? So turn it gently now. Let it spin slower. Slower until the only thing left is warmth and darkness and the quiet, perfect knowledge that you are loved in past, present, and future tense all at once, forever. Good night, my dear one. The lake is breathing you home.